So today we are focusing on the list tag, the table tag, and some other tag. And also today we are still going to talk about attributes in HTML and what they are used for. All right. So in HTML, if you want to create a list in HTML, we use something called we use something we refer to as a group tag. Now we'll call them group tag because they work together to make the list. So the first thing you need to do when creating a list is you first of all set your list. Now this list box will determine the kind of list you have to create. So if it's an ordered list, you set it to ordered list. If it's an ordered list, you use unordered list. So we have two types of box. We have two types of list. We have ordered and unordered lists. So we have ordered and unordered list. So it's either your list is ordered, or you can also have unordered. So when we say ordered list, what are we referring to? Ordered lists are lists that has to do with numbering. That's what we mean by ordered lists. Ordered lists are lists that has to do with numbering. Why unordered lists are lists that has to do with bullets. Let me give you an example. So examples of numbering lists are we can have A, or rather alphabets. So for example, whenever you are creating a list of something, you can say A, B, C, D, E, F, just like that. So that's when you are working with the alphabetical ordered list. Then we have another one, which is the one we use most of the time, which is numbers. So you can also use numbers as a list. So if you want to use an alphabetical list or a numbering list, you should be using ordered list. Another type of ordered list is Roman figures. So if you want to be using Roman figures for your list, you should be using the ordered list. So these are the different types of ordered lists that we have. Then for another list we have circle. So you can use circle for your listing. You can use square shape for your listing. And we have another one which is called disk. So these are the different types of lists for another list. So in HTML, we have two types of lists. We have ordered list and unordered list. And these are the types of ordered lists we have. And this one are the types of unordered lists that we have. So when creating a list in HTML, what you need to do is to define your list. So this element that you add here will define your list. Then you start adding your items inside. So I can come here and add my first list item, and I can call this one item one. Understand? So this is how you add your items. So I can add another one and call it item two. I can add another one and call it item three. Just like that. So this is how you do it visually. This is how it's being done visually. So you add this your parent element to define the type of list. Then you can start adding your items inside the list. Now in HTML, how do we do this? Let's go to our code. So these are our code from last time. So in HTML, if I want to create a list, depending on the list you want to create, that will determine what you are starting with. So if you want to create an ordered list, you use OL. If you want to create another list, you use UL. So UL stands for unordered list. OL stands for ordered list. So when I'm using OL, it means ordered list. UL means unordered list. So let's start with ordered list, OL. So if I do OL, I'll open. So this OL will tell HTML that I'm trying to create an ordered list. And by default, your ordered list by default is going to be coming. Your ordered list by default is going to be numbers by default. So whenever you want to change it, you have to use something called attributes. We'll come to that though. But by default, your ordered list is going to be a numbering list. So let's try this now. So I'll come here saying this is my list. Then the next thing you need to do now is to add your items in the list. So to add items to your list, we use something called li. We use a tag called li. Come on, let me zoom in. All right, so we use a tag called li to add list item. So li stands for list item. Li list item. So I'll say li, and I can call this one my item one. I'm done. Then I'll come here, add another one. Li, I can call this one item two. Then I can say li, and I'll call this one item three. Now, if you notice, you see that I didn't number this list. I just used li to define my items, and I used ol to tell HTML that this is to tell the browser that this is an ordered list. So, and these are the items inside the list. So let's save this now and run this in our browser. So I will save. Remember to always save Control S. So when you save, you run in your browser. Let's wait and see the result. So my server is starting. All right, port 550, and that will open immediately in my browser. And as you can you see the list? So I have it as 1, 2, 3. So automatically it's going to be a number kind of list. It's going to be a numbering list. And if I want to add more items, I can do that by adding more items to the OL. I'll say li, and I'll say item 4. And if you come back here to the browser, you see we have it as number 4. So let's change this to something else. So instead of item 1, let's call this list of students. So I'll add like H2 here, and I'll say list of students. So instead of this item 1, let's call this list of students. So I can say John. Then I can make this one Peter. Can make this one Paul, and I can make this one Tony. Now if I save this now, come back to the browser, as you can see we have John, Peter, Paul, and Tony, and you see it's numbered. So that's for ordered list. What if I want to create an ordered list? It's the same thing. So I'll just copy this list I did here, and I'll bring it down. So you see now that if I want to make this unordered list, all I need to do is to change this OL to what? UL. I'll just change the OL to UL. That's all. So the way you create ordered list is the same way you create unordered list. The only difference is the parent tag, which is using OL for ordered list and UL for unordered list. So if I save this now, if I come back to the page, you can see I have bullet kind of list here. All right, so that's for ordered and unordered lists. That's how you create ordered and unordered lists. So right now, let's focus on ordered for now. Now we don't want to use numbering. We want to use alphabets. Now this is where attribute comes in. Now in HTML, attribute is used to add more information to your tag. That's what attribute is all about. Attribute helps you to add more information to a tag. And how do you add attribute to a tag? This is how it works. So let me open a new tag here. So let's say we have a tag here, and you want to add attributes to this tag. Attributes come in pair. They come in pair of name and value. Now the value of the attribute must be inside quotes. The value of the attribute must be inside quotes. And I can come here and close the tag here like this. So this is how you add attributes. The name of the attributes and the value. And you add attributes inside the start tag, not in the end tag. You put it in the start tag. Attributes are only added in the start tag. And the attribute would have name, equal to sign, and value. Now, this equal to sign and value might be optional. I will come to that one later. But for now, our attribute will always have name, the equal to symbol, then value as the next. And before you add the attribute, make sure you give a space before you don't join it to your tag name. Don't join it to your tag name. Make sure there's a space in between the tag name and your attribute. And elements can have more than one attribute. You can add more than one attribute to a tag. So for example, let's say this tag is talking about a person, for example. Let's use We know there is no tag called there is no tag called person in HTML, but let's use this as an example. So I can have a name as John. So this is the attribute, giving adding more information to this tag. Then I can add another attribute by adding one space, and I'll say the age is 40, and I can say the email is so on and so forth. So this is how you can add attributes to your element. So let's go back to this. So let's go back to our diagram. So now I don't want to use the number. I want to use alphabet as my numbering. I want to use alphabet for the list. How do I do that? All you need to do is to add a type attribute to this OL or UL. Add a type attribute to the OL or UL element. So let's do that now. So I'll come here to the OL and I'll say type is equal to, I see that you put it inside the opening tag. And when specifying type is for the OL, not for the LI, just for the OL. Now, if I set the type to 1, it means I want to use numbers. If I set the type to 1, it means I want to use numbers. If I set it to A, it means I want to use lowercase number. If I set it to uppercase A, it means I want to use uppercase number. If I set it to I, it means I'm using lowercase Roman figure. And if I set it to uppercase I, it means I'm using uppercase Roman figure. So if I use 1 here now, save and come back, you will notice that there is no change. If you come back here now, you see nothing happened because by default it is 1. But if I come here and change it to lowercase a, save, if I come back, you see now that it's now numbered with lowercase. And if I use I now and come back here, you see that it's been labeled with Roman figure. So this is how you use ordered list. This is how you use ordered list. Same thing if you want it to be uppercase, you use uppercase I. So same thing for the unordered list. Same thing for unordered list. So for unordered list, I can come here and set the type. Sorry. I can set the type to be equal to square. So if I set it to square, come back and refresh. I see now the shape is now square. I can also use circle. If I save and come back, you see it will be circle. But the default is this. The default is this. So if you don't specify anything, the default will be this. That's the default.
The default what?
The default is
The
this.
OL.
This for UL. The
This.
default is this for UL. That is this.
Okay.
So if you come back here, you see that is this black circle. That's what we call this. So because it's the default, if I still remove it, you won't see any changes because it's the default. But this is how you specify. This is how you design lists in HTML. And mind you, you can also have.
But
Ask your question.
the OL, does it? What's the default for the OL?
Disk. That is this one. Disk.
OL. Ordered
Okay, for
list.
OL, that's I. 1. Sorry,
Just one.
1. Yeah, that's number. 1 is for number. I is for Roman figure. A is for alphabet.
Okay.
So that is how you create a list. Then you can also have a list inside a list. Are you there?
Yeah.
You can have a list inside a list. So let's say, for example, we can say here we have OL where we want to list students in different schools. So I can say LI, and my first school is Word of Faith School. Word of Faith School. Then I'll list my other one as Christ the King School. So just like that. Then I'll list the other one as Calvary School. So if I save this now, I'll come back to the browser. You see we have this different list of schools. Now, what I want to do is I want to add students under this. I want to list students under this school. You can also do that. So I'll come to the first LI. Inside the LI, after the word of faith, I'll just come here, create another list. So I can use UL. And here I will now say LI, and I'll say John, and let's say Peter. These are the two students that are in this school. Then I can come to this one again, do the same thing. So I'll just bring it down. And I'll say UL. And here I can say Andrew and Jerry. Then I will do for the last one, which is for Calvary. So Calvary, I can create another list inside the LI. Say UL. I can say this is Tina and Anita. So right now, if I run this in my browser, as you can see, Word of Faith has John and Peter, Christ the King has Andrew and Jerry, and Calvary has Tina and Anita. So this is how you can create a sublist. You can also have a list under John, under Peter, and so on and so forth. So that's how you can go and create more sublists inside your list. So that is how you work with lists. It's very easy to work with lists. So we've talked about attributes and we've also talked about lists. We've talked about attributes and lists. So the next thing we are going to talk about is table. Let's see how to create a table. How do you create a table in HTML? Now, creating a table in HTML is easy. You just need to understand the concept. Mind you, remember what I told you guys, a program is all about understanding the concept. If you understand the concept, it will be easier for you to write. But when you don't understand the concept, it becomes a problem for you. So first of all, let's understand the table. How do you create a table in HTML? So create a table in HTML. The first thing you need to create is the table or the table container. So this guy will be the one to hold the whole content in the table. Then the next thing you need to do is to add rows to that container. So after creating your table, the next thing you do is start adding rows to your table. So if I want a table with only 3 rows, I can do that. 1, 2, 3. So I only have 3 rows in this table. Then when you are done adding rows to the table, the next thing you need to do now is to be adding data to your table. So to add data, I can come here and start adding data to my table. So I can say this one is no. So I can say this one is name. So this data I can add it here. I can add another one and say this one is test, and I can say this one is exam, and this one is total. So this is how you'll be creating it. So you see now in this row, I added 4 data in this row. So I can come down to the second row, and in the second row, I can say this is Jerry, and here I would say this one is 20, and here I'll say this one is 50, and I'll say this one is 70. So if whenever you want to create a table, if you can arrange it visually like this, it will be easier for you to create. Now let me align this thing very well. So this is how you create the data. So same thing, I can do the same thing over and over again. Uh, Let me arrange it properly. All right. So I can just copy this one down like this, and I will say this one is Paul, and this is 40. Say 50. I will make the total 90. So this is how easy it is to create a table. This is how you create a table in HTML. You create your container, create your row, add data to that row, create your second row, add data to that row, create your other row, so on and so forth. So that's how you can add more data to that row. That's how easy it is to create a table. So this table, let's create it using HTML. Let's see how it goes. So the first thing I need is the container. I need to create this container around it. So I'll come here and do that. Uh, I think let me clear all these things. So I'm not using them for now. So let me clear it off. So the first thing I will do is I'll say table, table. So this is the table container. This is how you create a container. So whenever you create a table, you start with the table elements, so which defines the container for the table. Then the next thing we need to do now is to add our row, add rows to the table. So in this table, we have how many rows? One, two, three. We have three rows in this table. So we'll do that here. So I'll come here, I'll say T arrow. T arrow means table row, table row. One, two, three. So you see I added three rows. One, two, and three. Then the next thing I need to do now is to add data to that row. So in the first row, I have name, test, exam, and total. So let's do that here. So to add data to your row, you use TD. TD means table data. So I'll say name, test, exam, total. So we are done with first row. I'll do the same thing. I'll come and do my second row. So my second row is Jerry 20, 50, and 70. So I'll come back and do that. So my second row, I'll say TD, say Jerry 20, 50, 70. Then I'll come to the last row, and the last row is 4, 40, 50, 90. So I'll just say TD, Paul, 40, 50, 90. So you see now that we are done with the table. Now let's see how this table looks in our page. So I'll just save, come to my browser now. Voila. You see, so you see now that the table we created, you see now that's what we have here. Name, test, exam, total. Then we have the data inside Jerry 20, 50, so on and so forth. So this is how you can create a table in HTML. That's how you can create a table in HTML. But one thing you should take note of is this. Your table, you should be able to differentiate between data and heading. Data and heading. So all these things you are seeing here, they are table data. These guys are table data. But this one is not part of the table data. This is the table heading. These things are table heading. So we need to label each of them as table heading. We need to label each of these guys as table heading. So let's come back and correct that. So everything in the first row, they are not data, instead they are heading. So instead of TD, you use TH, meaning table head. So everything in the first row, they are all table head. So I'll just change them to TH, 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 and TH, TH, and TH. And if I save this now, if I come back to the browser, you will see that they are now bold. I see now they are bold because the browser is not seeing them as the head of the table. So this is how you work with table. This is how you work with table. So there are more to table. There are more to table that you need to know. I'll provide a link where you guys can read more about the table. Like so if you know more about the table, like columns, how to specify, how to span through columns and row, then you can create complex table like this. So you have something like this. Maybe I might not have any data here, I might not have any data here. Understand? So you can create tables like this. You can even create tables that are like this. Maybe something that will look like this. You can create this kind of tables. So there are more to tables, but this is just the basics. This is just the basics. When we start building project, though, maybe we'll talk about some of the stuff about table. But for now, this is just the basics of table. Just understand these basics and you are good to go.
Okay. For this table, if you want to, okay, you said you teach us. Well, if you want to arrange this in such a way that you need to draw lines, demarcate, like lines to demarcate, is
Okay,
it
okay,
is it possible?
okay. Yes, yes, it's possible. But remember what we said. We said at the end of the day, HTML just helps you to bring stuff to the page. It doesn't design them for you. So that will
So
be the work. So
HTML.
that will be the work of CSS.
Uh,
Yeah. So if you want to add lines to your table, or you want it to look exactly like what I drew here, then you need CSS for it.
okay. Okay.
That's how it
There's
goes.
no. Yeah, you answered. Thank you. No
All
other
right.
question.
All right. So let's proceed. Okay. I don't have much time. I think my time for the live session is almost up. I think I have 7 minutes remaining. Okay, let's see what we can do with the 7 minutes.
Okay.
So now the question is, what are the attributes you can add to this table? What are the attributes you can add to your table? Number one is your width. You can add a width attribute to this table. So I can come here and set the width. So I'll say width. I will set it to 100. If I save this now, you see that my table is going to stretch over my page. So I come back now, I refresh. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
100%. I didn't add the percent. So you add the percentage. So if you save this now, come back here. I see now it's going to spread across your page. But it's not really
That means
nice. You said?
it will split itself equally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's basically. It's still maintaining the table lines though.
Yeah.
But if you want to see the lines, you can add another. But this attribute is no longer supported. It's deprecated. Now, when we say something is deprecated, it means in future versions they are going to remove it. And as you can see, VS Code is even highlighting it as red. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, so this tries to tell you that it will soon be removed. So if I set this border to 1, if you set the border to 1 to show you the lines. So that's why I don't teach my students most time that there's a border attribute because it will not be available in future versions. But if you do that, it will add lines to your table. So
So sorry, this is what I was asking. How did you?
just add a border attribute, set it to 1. Just set your border attribute to 1. You'll have your lines.
Okay, not 101.
No 1. Your width, you only set your width to 100. 100 means you want it 100% of your screen.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so if you set it to 50%, it means you want 50% of your screen. So it will be half of your screen. So for example, if I make this
Oh,
50 now, if I make it 50 now, and I come back, you see that it's going to be half of my screen.
yeah.
So that's it. So that's for the width. So width means wideness. Whenever you hear the word width, it means wideness of that particular thing. Why border is to set to make the lines visible. You
So that
understand?
one now is a list. Yes. So
Yes.
that one
Yeah.
you chose is just the list.
Yeah, yeah,
You
one is
can
this. You can use other
change
ones.
it
But
to.
yes, but I only advise one. Don't use something like 10 to no, it's not really nice. So if for example if I use 10 now, look at the table, you won't like it yourself. I think it's not really nice. So that's why I just
Yeah,
recommend.
that's
Yeah, so I just recommend one, just use one. Then another thing again you can add to your table is called caption. You can add caption to your table. It's like I'll create another live session. So you add caption to your table. So inside your table, you can add something called caption. So this caption is where you set the title of your table. So I can say this is list of students scores. Mind you, you can put any HTML. You can use H1. You can add H1 to it. So let me save this. If I come back here now, you see it's going to be at the top of the table. And I think one thing I notice is that wherever you add this, it doesn't matter. You can add it either at the top or at the bottom. I think it still works. So even if I put it at the bottom, it will still show at the top of the table as long as it's inside this caption tag. So if you come back now to the table, you see that it will still be at the top of the table. List of student scores. And another thing you can do is you can put it inside heading tab. So I can use H2 for it and just paste it inside the H2 so that it will be big as the heading, as the title. So if I come back now, you see you have it as list of student scores. And it's just there on the table. So I think that is that for table. That is that for table. Then another thing you might want to do is to add padding to your table.
To add what?
Is to add padding to your table. So there are attributes that you can use to add padding and spacing to your table. But I won't be talking about that in this class. I will just, like I said, I will share a link about tables so you can read more about tables. There are a lot you can do
Okay.
with tables. There are a lot that has to do with tables. So I'll just share the link. I'll just drop it so that you guys can read more about it. I'll drop it in the classroom group so you guys can read about it. So that is that for table. This is how you create a table. There are other things you can do, like there's something called T-head. You can use T-head to tell the browser which part is the head and which part is the body. So I can do something like this T-head and I'll put the header row. Then everything here is the body. So I'll just mark this part here. I'll cut it out and I'll say T body, meaning this is the body of the table, and I'll paste it inside. So what I did here is that what I'm trying to say is that this row is the heading of the table, while these two rows are the content of the table. That's the body of the table. So you put it inside T body tag. So you can do all this. And if you come back here to your browser, you see everything still appears cool and nice. So that's for table.